Welcome back to the Black Swamp Basketball Podcast, presented by the Gherkin Companies. Joined again this week by Dave Krause. I am Lynn Grawl, and special guest this week, John Floyd, who will talk about the life of the great Terry Wymer, who most will know from the college basketball viewing and Final Fours and national championships, was an icon in the officiating business, and John is one of those guys today. Coach, good to have you back. John, good to see you.
Great to be here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the opportunity.
I slipped in here. This weather's getting a little bit of a. Wasn't expecting this today. I must not have read the weather report.
Yeah, they were saying we're supposed to get some snow, but it's blowing around a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, we're here and we're going to talk hoops, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We got to take care of our teams of the week from a week ago. Mr. Krause, I'm going to play a spot from the Gherkin Companies, and then we'll get to it.
Well, we'll get on to that in a minute.
Who says a college degree is the only path to a fulfilling career? At the Gherkin Companies, we offer rewarding livelihoods with or without a degree. Gherkin provides a generous benefits package, continuous training, top-notch equipment, and a culture that rewards effort. We're looking for rock-solid performers to help build and reinforce the region's infrastructure. Whether you have construction experience or are just starting your career, apply now at gherkincompanies.com/careers.
Thank you again to the Gherkin Companies, title sponsor of our basketball podcast again this season. Coach Krause, go ahead with your teams of the week from a week ago. Boy, we have several we could choose from.
We certainly do, Lynn. And last week we hung that honor on our first month of the season to Wapak and OG out of the on the boys side, Wapak, OG on the girls side. Two teams off to great starts. This week, we've got some really doozy records going on, and a quick rundown of them. Van Buren out of the BVC, having an outstanding season, 9-1, 5-0 in their league. Montpelier up in the BBC, up north here, they're 10-1 on the season, led by a sophomore, CJ Fiddler, who's having an outstanding career or season to date. Kind of scores like Johnny Floyd used to score. He got multiple 30-point games as a youngster.
Must shoot a lot.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, he's athletic. The last game I watched him on video, and he had like 4 dunks. I mean, the kick and play.
That was not me.
We had to get the tramp out, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oregon Clay up in the NLL. Head coach is
Lionel Armstead.
Boom. Could he play?
He was a hell of a player.
He's a great player. Went to West Virginia, had a heck of a season or career there, and doing a fine job at Clay. They got a big game Tuesday coming. They play they're 3-0, but they'll play 3-0 Southview on Tuesday. So that'll be a telling as to who takes control of that side of the NLL. Lincoln View down in the Northwest Conference having a solid season. They just had a huge win last weekend over Miller City, who was a very fine team. Lima Senior, boy, they just keep rolling. Quincy's got them going 9-1, 4-0 in the City League. Miller City 12-2 in the Putnam County League. So all those teams, to me, we can kind of pinpoint one if you want. Do you have any favorites?
This is all your show.
Okay, well,
you're the expert. I let it up to you unless there's.
I'm far from the expert, but I really like what Oregon Clay's done. It's a team that has had not a lot of success lately, and here they're off to a good start. And Lionel's got them playing well, and so I'm going to just lean that way for the boys' side.
Clay Eagles, yeah,
absolutely. On the girls' side. Let's start down to the MAC. It's a good place to start. St. Henry, their ladies are 12-0. That's not too bad to start with. Anthony Wayne, going back to NLL, they're 10-3, which is kind of 10-3. But look at the 3 teams they lost to. They lost to Spire Academy, which is not really a high school. It's more of a prep school. They lost to Brush out of Cleveland, and they lost to maybe Akron Hoban, maybe. 3 really solid programs, so they've got a deceiving 10-3 record. In the NWL locally, Delta 12-1, Archibald 11, 13 and 10-2. I can't read my writing. And Patrick Henry 11-2. But all 3 schools are done well. Patrick Henry coming off a huge win last night over Columbus Grove. It's a Columbus Grove team that obviously descending state champions. That Patrick Henry Grove game was a redo. That was a regional final game last year, and both teams returned a nucleus to both sides, and Patrick Henry was able to return the favor last night. Paulding down GMC way, 13-1, great season. Their sole loss is to Bryan, and then Miller City. They linger out there with one loss. So that to me is where the girls that we could talk to. I think when you say 12-0, that's pretty impressive. So let's give
Can't do any better than that.
Let's give it to St. Henry on the women's side, and so it's Clay and St. Henry this week.
Outstanding. Congratulations. Both going to make my way down to St. Henry with Coach Strock next Saturday, the 24th, to see some folks down there. So we'll be down in Matt Country.
I got one other thing to just throw out there that I thought was impressive, and you don't see it very often. And a young lady out of North Baltimore, Wood County. Did you hear about her?
I did.
Unbelievable. This is John Floyd status almost probably. Young lady, sophomore for North Baltimore, went off for 53 and 18 in the game. All right, and in that game, it kind of pulled her over to a 1,000-point score, and here she's a year and a half into her career.
So she's the player of the week.
She would be the player of.
If we had a player of the week, she would be.
I
yes,
definitely say we'll go there, but that's going to be an interesting young lady to keep following.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw that. Yeah,
season/career moves on. I thought that was an interesting stat.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And I thought John Floyd was going to jump in there and vouch for his brother's team at Central Catholic there as you were going through the teams there, Coach.
We'll jump in there and give them some love at some point. They always belong in there because who they play and where they play, and they had a big win the other night, right? Over St. Francis.
They beat St. Francis last night. Yeah.
So,
he's got him playing well.
Yeah,
he's doing a really, really good job.
Yes,
I'm proud of
he
him.
has. Absolutely.
Wow, that's a lot of positive reinforcement there from
Little
brother
brotherly
John.
love,
Yeah,
huh?
I
How
don't
about
really
that?
hear that from John too
Usually
often,
they're probably
talking
doing
about
this
Mike.
one another.
Let's edit it so he doesn't hear that.
Yeah, I don't want him to hear that.
Yeah. Can't get his head too big.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Keep him grounded.
Yeah. John, how are you doing?
Doing great.
I see you on the TV all the time, and people that are watching right now probably can put the name to the face as well.
That's why I wear a hat.
Put some stripes on him, and they'll be more recognizable.
Yeah, it's been great so far this season. I've been very fortunate with a lot of different opportunities. And in my world, no news is good news. And so far, you fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You were out in Maui, you said, to begin the season back there at Thanksgiving week. Usually you're down in Cancun, so you're having a nice little gig here in the in these preseason, I shouldn't say preseason, but early season tournaments.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to go down to Cancun the last few years. Got an opportunity. J.D. Collins, our former NCAA supervisor, now assigns the Maui Invitational, shot me a call in late June, early July. Asked if I was interested. Didn't take long to say yes, but provided me a great opportunity, and it was an unbelievable experience. I mean, Maui's just beautiful. I'd never been to Maui, and I was fortunate enough to have my parents and my son with me to be able to share that. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I've been out to Maui, and the Lahaina Civic Center is where they host that tournament and showcase, and I told my wife, I said, we got to stop. We got to go in here, and I want to see where these teams are playing when they come out here every November. And I walked into this place, and it's not even a very good, nice high school gym, for that matter, unless they've renovated and done some things.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah, so you walk outside, and there's the beach and everything else, and you can say, now I know why they come out here.
Yeah.
So it's a special time.
Yeah, it is. It was like I said, and the people there were unbelievable.
Yeah.
The way they hosted us, I'm sure the teams would stay the same thing, but it's first class event all the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to hear that those types of tournaments are kind of going by the wayside. They had the field of 64 or whatever they called it early on, and I know there's been talk that the Maui event. How how much longer will it last? I don't know, and that's the college basketball folks have talked about it, and hopefully it is here forever. We lost the Great Alaskan Shootout a few years ago, which was a great early season tournament. Some thoughts there, John, and maybe what you've heard.
I obviously that's above my pay grade, quite frankly, but I hope somehow, some way at the Maui can find a way and fit within the schedule, because as a young person growing up, I remember watching the Maui Invitational. I mean, it's a staple event, and it's an iconic event. Yep. So if they can keep something like that going, I think it's good for college basketball. I know the travel's tough on the teams, but if they can find a way to keep that event going, I think it's good for college basketball.
And the fact that and I still think they still allow Chaminade to be a part of the tournament.
They're in it every other year. They were in it this year.
Okay, so that's a Division II school, and they're well known for their famous upset of Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, and I had them against Boise State in the 7th and 8th place game this year, and they gave them all they could handle.
Yeah,
I mean, it went right down. I'd say going into the last under 4, it was still a close game.
So it's really
was it Georgetown or Virginia?
It was Virginia.
Ralph Sampson, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, but no, like I said, first class event all the way, and the people there, it also means a lot to the economy, and what they're going through with the fires and everything else. I really hope for not only for college basketball's sake, but for the people of Maui that thing can keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. John, we brought you on because we want you to talk about the life of Terry Wymer, and I know Terry has been a mentor to you. Take us through why you wanted to get into officiating and when you met Terry.
So I first met Terry, a girl I was seeing in high school. Her mom worked for Terry at Sky Bank. And obviously during my senior year, I started getting recruited a little bit. She introduced us, just thought, hey, we might hit it off a little bit, which we did. Didn't have a lot of interactions with them, but once I started started playing at Oakland, and after that Bowling Green, Terry was a staple in those two leagues. So his team seemed to have a lot of our games, and this from having that previous interaction, we tend to interact a little bit more on the floor, all in good stuff. And then my last couple years at Bowling Green, I was fortunate enough to be a captain. As a captain, you tend to interact with the officials a little bit more, and we just kind of developed a mutual respect for each other. And he was one of him, and along with a couple other guys, kind of would casually mention that, hey, I should probably think about getting into officiating. I really wasn't sure what, if I wanted to go into coaching, if I just want to go into the real world, a real job, as they like to say. And I didn't know, as a player, you don't know what you don't know. But Terry was one of the guys that, kind of gave me the ins and outs of the officiating business, and it really piqued my interest. And forever thankful that he did that. Because it's provided me a lot of opportunities that I never would have thought that I would have saw.
Yeah.
Well, Terry, we'll get into his impact and what he's meant to the basketball world, because it's unbelievable what he's done and the impact and respect that he's earned. But he started at the hy school ranks. He didn't just start way up here. He had to work his way up, and likewise.
Yeah, I mean, when he was first telling me, because he was working a lot of the Mid-American, it used to be called the Mid-Con. Now it's the Summit, and then he was still working some Big Ten when I first got done with my playing career. And when he first told me, I mean, obviously, really what piqued my interest was the financial ramifications that was being made out there. And I had no idea, and I was like, "Hey, how do I start working the MAC tomorrow?" It's like, slow down. Like, I get used to putting on a different uniform, and I took that to heart. Like, I started working lower level games. You first started working, JV and under, and Terry was always about, hey, try to get more reps, try to see plays. Albeit a 3rd or 4th grade kids game, like, you can still learn something of how to interact with people. Because really, and Coach, you would probably attest to this, play calling's play calling. I think most guys are pretty good, especially at our level, at play calling. But I think what separates guys is your communication.
Sure. And
Terry was a master at that. I mean, I didn't work a lot of games with him, but there was a few games that I worked with him, and like, I would see something happen. I'm like, all right, how's he going to get out of this? And by the end of the conversation, he has the guy laughing. And I didn't, I'm like, I was just trying to, grab as much as I can from him and hopefully, put it into my game.
Yeah.
And, he's not only done that for me. I mean, there's a crop of officials, I think, that would say the same thing, that, he has taught them how to communicate, how to deal with tough situations, whatever that is. And I think you'll see his impact is, just because he is, unfortunately away from us now, his impact, especially in the officiating world, is going to be felt for generations down the line.
Was your goal to get to the college game and officiating when you started, or were you thinking high school, or where was your high point?
Yeah, I mean, the college game always piqued my interest. I knew I needed to work, and obviously, as a young guy, you want everything fast, especially, in today's world, even more so than when I was first coming up. You want everything yesterday. But Terry, along with a other group of officials, they said, hey, just slow down. You got to see repetitions, see plays, put yourself in situations. So that's, I worked the high school stuff. Like I said, I worked youth stuff and was just trying to learn. But I always saw my future as going to the college route. I really had no interest of going to the NBA route. This wasn't something I wanted. Now, there's advantages, disadvantages. I know some guys, Andy Nagy, there's a guy in Toledo that works in the NBA. And I'm so happy and proud of him for being where he is at. But, they're direct employees, whereas we're independent contractors. I brought my son here today. As he grows older, if he has something coming up, I can always block off that date. That more piqued my interest and fit my lifestyle. And I also have a sales job, and it allows me to still do that. Not that I don't love basketball, but I didn't want it to be the end-all, be-all. I wanted something else to be able to fall back on, because let's say I tear my ACL tomorrow, and you want something else to be able to fall back on.
What was your progression then? I mean, in terms of number of years, from the time you maybe got into the lower ranks and progressed there, when you finally worked a collegiate game, how long did it take?
So I got done playing. I worked just high school and on under 2007, 2008 season. I was working all JV and under. That summer, I went to a college camp. Now, my route is going to be probably different than someone else who's sitting next to me. I was very, very fortunate, and I realized that, because a lot of the guys that were the evaluators at this camp probably reffed me. Mm-hmm. So when you go to these camps, there might be 100 officials there, and you're just kind of a number. At least when my name popped up, like, all right, I know who Floyd is. Let's see what Floyd's about. So it probably gave me some opportunities. Now, what you do with that opportunity is up to you. But I was fortunate enough to get hired by Bill Eck, who assigns all the small college stuff, summer of '08. So I actually worked my first college game before my first varsity game. Now, it was at OSU Lima. Like, he's not going to give you, Findlay, Grand Valley. Like, he's got his own, progression as well. So, I was working OSU Lima, Wright State Lake, maybe a game at Owens. I started out with, 5 or 6 games, but I was still, not that I wanted to go back, but I missed the days of going to work at Owens at 2:00 and then shooting down the Liberty Benton for the,
a double dipper.
Yeah, like I miss those days. I don't want to go back, but I do miss those days. But I was fortunate, at the time I was single, no kids, and I was able to kind of put the time and effort into it. But I always saw, here's what I want to do. I always knew I wanted to get to where Terry was at, and if I can just have half the career that he had, that's pretty successful. Obviously, he's the pinnacle of what all of us want to do.
And, I've always said about Terry, and I've known him for a long time, but, he just never forgot where he came from, and what made him who he was, and be it that North Baltimore piece of him never left him.
Yeah.
Because he still lived there. I mean, he still resided there and still well known in Wood County, Hancock County, because that's where his business was located, and just made himself entrenched there.
It was funny, at his showing and then funeral. I assume you were there.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. A lot of people were there.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know what is North Baltimore, 3,000 people. That probably double the size of that.
Easily.
Yeah, and it was funny at the luncheon afterwards. I was sitting next to an individual, and his name escapes me, but he had known Terry for a while. He kind of knew who I was, and we got to talking. And he kind of made a joke. He said, the priest was saying that basically this funeral has saved the church because of the amount of donations that are coming in. So even though he was gone, he was still impacting the town of North Baltimore.
Yeah. I didn't make the service, but I went to the viewing, but I did watch the service online. It was impressive. The priest did a great job.
Yeah, he did. So we got there. My parents came down, and myself, and we got there it was 11 o'clock service. I think we got there at 10:30. We couldn't even get a seat in the main area. We had to go in the basement. And we watched the live stream like everyone else. And the people that were there, it just shows you the amount of respect that he has within the basketball world. Like at the showing, you had Matt Painter was there. I saw him. I heard Greg Gard was there. I had heard Tom Izzo was there, and not only them but also their staffs.
Sure.
And then I know on the day of the funeral, I know Todd Kowalczyk was there. Greg Campy. John Gross was sitting next behind me, who's the coach at Akron. Just the amount of people that respected him and how he went about things.
Yeah. I play in your brother's golf outing every year, and Terry was usually there. And I think the first time I saw him there, I'm like, wow, that's Terry Wymer, the guy that officiates the Final Four in the national championship games. And you're kind of in awe because you're used to seeing him on TV. You guys, knew him, but when I saw him, I'm like, wow, that's Terry Wymer.
Yeah.
And he's just a normal guy.
He is.
You have that feeling that he's that he's not going to talk to you. And he would always talk to me at your brother's golf outing like I was just his friend that he's known for his life. And he's just a normal, good
that was
dude.
the one thing. I mean, like I said, I was fortunate enough to work a few games with him. And it was amazing when you'd walk into the arena with him. It was like he was the mayor. Like, the security guard, Terry, how the hell you been? Like, it was like, it was anyone and everyone. Like, they were just so happy to see him. And, just the way he carried himself, I think he brought, enjoyment to that person's day. That it broke up the monotony of that particular day. Just the way he talked to people and he made them feel important. That's a strength that not too many people have in this life.
Well, as a coach, home or away, it didn't really matter. When initially two, but when those three guys walked out, and you saw somebody that you had a great deal of respect for because he's going to work his butt off and give you a great game, you just felt relaxed as a coach. Mm-hmm. What was the flip side of the flip side is when you walk out and you don't recognize anybody. You maybe had some altercations with some of them, and you're going, oh, it's going to be a long night. So Terry Wymer walking into an arena, I could see him having that vibe, and the coach is just kind of, okay, we're in for a good game tonight because we know he's going to take control.
Yeah, and I was listening to you guys' broadcast last week with the Lehman brothers, and what Jay was talking about. I think he was talking about a story that when Terry kind of screwed up a call and, the next time he saw him, you still love me. Like, he was able to take a bad situation and, like, this kind of ease everyone's mind, like, it's just a strength that I'm trying to work on because Terry's thing was you don't want to, even though you are right, sometimes you're wrong.
Sure.
Sometimes, you don't want to win every battle. And sometimes, if you're right, but the coach is so adamant, hey, you could be right. Like, that may just diffuse a situation. And I'm, still trying to learn some of those, like just going through, communicating with coaches, and I'm trying to take, attributes that Terry had and implement them into my own game.
Sure. Who do you think, as you talk about him being a mentor and a great example for you, did he ever share with you maybe officials that maybe took him under the wing and got him as he got started?
Yeah, I know a big mentor of his was Sam Licklider. Sam was multi-Final Four official. Sam is still around.
Down in Dayton.
Yeah, he's in the Dayton area. I know Sam really took Terry under his wing and showed him the ropes. And, I'm sure there's probably I know there's a group of officials that leaned on Terry for advice. I know Sam was one of the guys that Terry leaned on for advice. And over the last couple of years, when Terry has been our boss for the Big Ten, he has brought in at the conference tournament. Sam was our spiritual advisor, and Sam will tell you exactly what it is and why it is. He's a very, very there's no fluff with Sam, and that's what Terry was. Might have delivered it a little different. Sam's a little more brash,
Sure.
But Terry, it was you don't BS him. If you screwed something up, you got to tell him, and that's just the way. Just seeing their dynamic, that was exactly how their relationship was. And I know Sam was a huge impact on Terry's life.
Well, I don't know how many people realize this, but Findlay, Ohio, is a hotbed for officials who've done well in all sports, but particularly basketball. I mean, Bob Wortman. You remember that name?
I remember the name. Yep.
Well, Bob Wortman is one of the few guys from Findlay, Ohio. Matter of fact, my dad and him were just best buddies. We grew up together. But Bob Wortman worked a Super Bowl and an NCAA Final Four.
I think I knew that. I think I've heard that.
He's done. Yeah, so that was. He's a Findlay guy. Sid Rodeheffer. He's a big Findlay guy who worked the Big Ten for numerous years.
Yeah, all these names, I know who they are. Yep. I didn't have any relationship with them, but you're exactly right.
There's 2 or 3 other guys who are just strictly football NFL guys out of Findlay. So they've got a little niche of officials out of the Findlay area, and that's really, I'm sure, maybe probably helped Terry and along the way as well.
Absolutely.
A Bob Wortman story real quick. He had the Final Four, and it was Indiana playing. Was it maybe the Michigan game? Is that the Philadelphia game?
81, yeah, when Isaiah and
yeah,
that would have been Michigan. I think was the final, possibly.
Well, anyway,
it doesn't matter.
It was the final game, but nonetheless, it was only a 2-man crew, and he might have been working with Hank Nichols or somebody like that. But there was a play where an Indiana kid early in the game goes down with an injury. And Wortman's down there on the end of the court, and he tells the story about. Here comes Knight coming out. And, everybody thinks he's going to, check on his player and make sure his player's okay. But he proceeds to walk right by the player and to confront the referee. And he said, Wortman says, well, your gentleman's over there on the floor. He probably needs your assistant. He goes, I got trainers to worry about that. They'll take care of him. He says, I got to work with you the rest of this game. We got to work something out right now. I mean, it was just a conversation that. It was kind of funny to hear him say, "Oh, I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about having you for the rest of this game."
Yeah.
Would have you got into officiating, John, if it wasn't for Terry Wymer?
It's a great question, honestly. I don't know if I can answer it, correctly. I mean, obviously he was a big influence for me to get into officiating. Would I have found my path? I don't know, but it definitely accelerated my interest into it, and and I'm thankful for that. I mean, it's brought me so many opportunities, and just meet different people. And there's great guys that I can lean on. Like a guy like Bill Eck, who, I started out working for him. I now consider him one of my best friends, and I can lean on him for a lot of different things. And I know he'll be honest with me. You take a guy like who's now our new supervisor of officials, Terry Goldsby. T.O. and I don't know each other really, really well, but he was always a guy I really, really respected. My mom watches a lot of college basketball, and when T.O. got named, I told her who our new boss was, and she didn't know his name. And T.O.'s worked the last 4 national championships.
Wow.
Pretty much my mom knows every single official, when just because she watches so much basketball, and that just kind of shows the type of guy that T.O. is. And again. Terry Wymer, if I can take little bits and pieces from Terry, if I can take little bits and pieces from T.O., little bits and pieces from Billy, and, I got to be my own person. But, the why I respect, what T.O. is all about is, for be able to work 4 national championships and you don't know who he is. Like, he just does his job.
Yeah.
He did it very, very efficiently. And T.O. and Terry were really, really close as well. They go back, and a lot of that closeness probably comes through all the battles they did together. That's where yes, there's other stuff that, the friendships happen, but when you can go through a battle of, they probably worked, I don't know how many games, but my guess is they probably worked 60, 70 games together. Wow. And it wasn't, it wasn't, directional you at, Ohio State. It was, Ohio State, Michigan. It was, it was hard games, and those guys can just, the experience that they had together. And that's just, how, I lean on those type of guys.
Don't know if you ever had this conversation, if Terry told you, but was there a reason why he got into officiating, if you ever discussed that?
I believe he said he wasn't a very good coach because he coached first, and I don't think he was a very good coach is what he told me. So he decided to go to officiating route, if I remember right. I don't want to quote him on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
But another guy, honestly, I'd probably be remiss to say, who's now currently our Mid-American and Summit supervisor is Mike Sanzier, who I know, as Terry was coming up, Sanzier was kind of a little bit older cohort, and I know those guys, he leaned on Mike a lot as well. And I know, this whole ordeal, I know hit Mike really, really hard because they were really, really close. So,
when Terry hung up his lanyard, and I don't know how many years. Do you remember the number of years?
So
that
he would have took over. Let's see, we're in.
Well, I'm talking about number of years he officiated first.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like 84. He started at the high school ranks. And
okay,
things
how many
like
years
that.
he got? Yeah, he got
But
it.
at the Big Ten level and to higher level, it was ample. I mean,
It was.
Yeah.
I think he worked. Is it 5 Final Fours?
5 Final Fours, 3 national
championships.
Yeah.
And actually, his son Luke just shared something on Facebook. The shot that Villanova hit to beat North Carolina, he was on it.
Terry
was the lead on that play. And again, he did his job because no one knew he was on the game. And that's the mark of what you want as an official, is to not be noticed, and especially in a game that everyone and their mother is watching.
Yeah. But he was almost noticed. I shouldn't say noticed, but you knew who Terry was because he was so darn respected.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's why you knew who Terry Wymer was.
Yeah,
and he was a great official too.
Absolutely, but he never made the game about him.
No, he never. Yeah, right. Yeah,
he had ultimate respect from all the coaches, and that just goes to show you who was there at his showing and funeral.
Absolutely.
But he never made the game about him. I mean, I remember Terry when he got off the floor. He goes, "Hey, the games are still being played. Like, no matter."
Right.
I hung up my whistle, but the games, they still got to get covered. Like, they're not stopping. The ball's not still bouncing.
Well, my point for bringing that up was, he remained in the game, and he was able to then to share his expertise and knowledge and wisdom with a lot of younger guys as the Big Ten assigner and in charge of the Big Ten.
Yeah, so obviously he was the Big Ten supervisor, and then he was the executive director of the COC.
Let's stop there. Just how many referees, officials was he in charge of that were part of that consortium?
So in the COC, which includes the Big Ten, the MAC, Summit, Horizon, and the Mountain West, which came in last year once the Big Ten expanded out west. Don't quote me, but I give or take 150 officials. And with the way the Big Ten is now nationwide, I mean, we got guys in California, obviously guys in Ohio, we got guys out east. I mean, there's guys all over the place. It's not a job that I would envy on anyone. I mean, especially as the Big Ten supervisor, there's games every night, and they're fielding phone calls. That game might have tipped off at 11 o'clock Eastern. It's 8 o'clock out west, but they're still probably be calling. And this scheduling guys trying to line up, travel and everything else. There's a lot more to the job. People just think, hey, he's putting names, but he's trying to match up crews. Like, I know for me, like, when he was our supervisor, I happened to work a lot of games with like Doug Sermons, has worked multiple Final Fours, and Doug and I kind of took have a good relationship now. But I think Terry was being strategic. Like, hey, Floyd is still a newer face in the Big Ten. Like, if anything goes haywire, I got Doug there, and Doug, I think, respected me, so he wasn't going to leave me out to dry. So there's a lot more to the job than just putting names out there.
Yeah.
I mean, so
when the Big Ten assigns when they assign guys to, since it's such a geographical large area. Do anybody would you ever get sent to the West Coast to do a game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I, last week, I had a game last Sunday. I was in Minneapolis for a game, and then I flew out to Denver. I was at Colorado State last Tuesday. A lot of times, if they can make it possible, they'll try to get you 2 or 3 when you're out there. Sometimes travel just doesn't work, or schedules don't work. The Mountain West plays Tuesday, Saturdays. So, if you get sent out there for a Big Ten game, maybe there's just not another game for you to work. So you might have to come back and only work one. But they try to, if they can, because they want to be advantageous for us.
Will the new and revised Pac-12 or 10 or how many number they're going to have that comes back, I think, next year, correct?
Yes, they come back next year. So the Mountain West will lose 5 schools to the new Pac-12, but the Mountain West is bringing in 4. I think overall they'll lose 1 because Grand Canyon's in this year. I think UTEP comes in, and there's a couple other changes. I think UC San Diego or something like that. But the Pac-12, they actually announced, I think, 3 months ago that John Higgins will be their supervisor or official. John has the Big 12 as well, so they'll be in that consortium. Okay. I
was wondering if that might be added to the.
Yeah, the Mountain West. It sounds like, and who knows? There's a lot. Sometimes there's a lot of moving parts, with all that stuff. Obviously above my pay grade, but I do know that John Higgins got
started in 1984 at the high school level,
Correct.
2 years after graduating from Findlay College, and then 1994 he did the Ohio Boys State basketball tournament and also started the Mid-American Conference that year too.
What
in
year was that?
1994,
94, 10
1994.
years
Yep.
later.
Yep.
Well,
yeah. It's a decorated career. I mean, it truly is, and all the credit to him. I mean, he did it the right way, like you said. He didn't forget about where he came from, and ultimate respect, and thankful to have known him.
When I was at Findlay, a year. I mean, almost weekly, if not every other week, he'd pop up into the office, and we would get an opportunity to run situations by him, and was this happened? Can you give us an interpretation? Was this done right? Was this done wrong? So he really helped, expand your own rules knowledge, and even when a 3-man crew mechanics. Well, hey Terry, I can't understand why this play's called by this guy, and help me understand that better. And he would sit down, take the time to.
Yeah, talk about open looks. And,
it's just giving you a novice who didn't understand how the movements went to kind of get me up to snuff a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a casual fan, they don't understand the guy who might be closest to the play might have the worst look on that play. Yeah. Like the one that, if you're at the lead and they're yelling for travel on the offense player, well, really that should be coming from an outside guy.
Make sure you talk about the lead. There's three terminology. So give us that.
The lead would be the official underneath,
right?
And then you got the trail, who's on the same side as the lead, and you got the center or slot opposite. So we always try to be in a triangle. So if the lead rotates, the center becomes the trail, and then the trail becomes the center. But when on those post plays, the outside guys really should be watching the feet, because really, the lead's going to have responsibility for the defender. And then, one thing that Terry was really, really big on, and it's being passed along to what our leadership is wanting now, is plays above the rim when you're lead, and the play above the rim happens opposite you. Really stay away from it, because a lot of times you're guessing, because it's really hard. You got the rim and everything else. So he was big on that to. Do not call it opposite as the lead. And I got chewed up a little bit a couple times calling them. But sometimes you just feel like it's a foul. But then when you go back and watch, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like your percentages go way, way down. And that philosophy has been passed by our leadership now. So, yeah, it's just like little things like that. Then if when you're the lead, if that post player spins away, hey, stay away, because they'll open up to someone else, If usually when you can see numbers, it's probably not a good thing, because you don't know what's happening in front of them.
Yeah. Let me take my final break, and we'll finish up this episode with the great John Floyd.
Hard-working individuals have been the heart of the Gherkin companies for generations. Together we construct the highways and infrastructure that strengthen our communities. Gherkin is seeking rock-solid performers. We offer generous benefits, continuous training, top-notch equipment, and a culture that rewards effort. Want to be part of something big, steady, and stable with room to grow? Whether you're experienced or just starting your career, we encourage you to apply at gherkincompanies.com/careers.
American Freedom Energy and Grandma's General Store off Route 24 on State Route 109, just south of Liberty Center, now has 88 unleaded fuel and is your one-stop shop for fuel, food, drinks, and much, much more, including locally raised meats and home-baked goods. American Freedom Energy and Grandma's General Store is proud to support Black Swamp Football and is the host of the Black Swamp Football podcast, football show, and Saturday mornings Rise and Rewind. Stop in and see Glenn and Greg today and make American Freedom Energy and Grandma's General Store a part of your everyday routine. Welcome back to the Black Swamp Basketball Podcast presented by the Gherkin Companies. Also, thank you to our hosts here at American Freedom Energy, Glenn and Greg Badenhop, as they host us every Wednesday night for our shows. We'll be back next Wednesday. I don't know if we have a guest. We're in the works.
No, we're probably going to bring in a contingent.
Okay.
I don't know
We
what
can
that
do that.
means
Yeah.
of state champions from the 1980 Napoleon Wildcats.
Oh,
That'll be a good story for.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. We there may be a couple of those guys that were on. There was a release of the all-stars or greats from each county around
Did you see that, John?
Northwest
I
Ohio.
did see that. I did.
We may have to discuss
I
that
think
at some point on this,
I think that
on this
needs
show.
a little bit of we have to dive into that.
Yeah, well,
big
John
time.
played up in Lucas County. He was a little bit of at a disadvantage
Yeah,
there.
it,
with the
Totally,
group
but-
up there.
but I am a little biased. Brian Roberts should have been on that list.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, see, that's such a neat list, and kudos to the people. Do you know the people who did this?
I do not know.
Yeah, I don't either, but I love the concept, A, and then B, just see these names again, number one,
Yeah.
and then number two, the dialogue. Well, why is this guy isn't on? Why is that going? That whole thing. That's fun.
You guys are both historians. You know a little bit about Lucas County, and the Floyd family's pretty famous up there in Lucas County at St. John's.
Yeah.
Who would be your starting five from Lucas County, John?
How about St. John's number one?
Or we can do the St. John's starting five.
St. John's would be a pretty good one. You want to ask Coach Heinz on that. But Lucas County, I think you got to go Jimmy Jackson.
Boom,
You got to go Dennis Hobson.
boom.
I think Vince Williams, based on what he's doing right now. I mean, with his career.
Boy, that's the one you forget about. There.
Now, can we start five guards? Can we start five centers, or do we have to have a full roster here?
I mean, you got Truman
Truman
Claytor.
Claytor, yeah.
You've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
Kelvin Rains. I mean, why?
Some of those names that are from before my time.
Yeah,
that
you weren't thought of yet.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just kind of going, guys. I remember.
Yeah.
because I really started watching and remembering about my son's age at about 8. So I would have been early 90s is when I started kind of, and obviously, I just remember watching Shane Comize what he did. But I mean, there's a lot of different names that you could throw out there. But again, I think Jimmy's.
That's
no
a no-brainer.
question.
That's a
a no-brainer. I mean, I think Dennis Hobson's probably a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
And then from there, you probably could throw in from Lucas County, probably 10, 15 names that we can just kind of see what people think.
Yeah,
But
that's for sure.
biasly, just being the St. John's guy, Brian Roberts, who played in the NBA, and Vince Williams, who is currently playing in the NBA, it's hard to say that they don't belong there.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. What team would Eric Floyd be on? John Floyd and Mike Floyd in the Lucas County echelon of teams.
Jesus. How low do we
top
go?
30?
Yeah, how low do we go? Honestly, for us, and Eric played on some great teams. He was a state runner-up his senior year in '96. Myself, I played on some tremendous teams, especially my senior year. We got upset in the regional finals, but I mean, my job was made really easy as a guard. I mean, my backcourt mate was Brian Roberts. I mean, who really wants to press us? I remember we played. we actually scrimmaged. Diebler, Keith was the coach at Fostoria. Jake was, he was a year behind me, I think, so he would have been a junior. And they played that fast pace. He wanted to press us. I think in 6 quarters we put up like 175 points.
Wow.
It was like a layup line because you were trying to press. Again, I was Division I guard, pretty good, but Brian Roberts ended up being an NBA guard. I'm like, what? I mean, Brendan Fields, our big, who ended up being a punter in the NFL. I mean, he probably had 50 points because all you had to do was just lay the ball in. And Heinzel just kept wanting to, let's go. If they're going to keep pressing us, let's just go. And then Mike obviously played on some tremendous teams. I mean, obviously he played with B.J. Raymond, who had a tremendous career at Xavier and then ended up overseas. Zach Hills, who played at Notre Dame. He played it with Andrew Taylor, who played at Xavier. I mean, it was like that era.
Yeah, he brought the ball up the court for those guys.
Yeah, he passed the ball. He did very well.
Yeah.
No wonder.
They didn't let him.
No wonder Eddie was such a good coach.
Yeah. Hey, Coach Heinzel, he would admit, the best coaches have really good
The
players.
Jimmys and Joes do matter.
Yeah, they do. But no, I mean, there was a hell of a run. And for Coach Heinzel's sake, I look back on that. I really wish he would have got one.
Yeah, well,
He deserved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to get one. And, obviously the way we lost was tough, but I really thought Brian's senior year, when Brian was a senior, BJ a junior, and Zach Hills as a junior, I think that was, I think, the best team that collectively talent-wise that St. John's has ever had.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we have about 15 minutes with you here, John, and we don't want to keep you over your allotment of time here. Curious, I'm watching a game on TV, you're watching a game on TV, and then you become an official. What are you looking for maybe differently as somebody that's watching on TV, a common, ordinary person like myself, and then as an official, if you can put that into the words?
So it's really tough for me if I go out, get something to eat with some buddies and stuff. It's really tough for me to watch basketball at a sports bar or at a restaurant. It's really, really hard for me to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I can go there and watch football because I don't really know what's going on. When I start watching it, basketball, I'm seeing, all right, this guy called that. Where was he at? What was his positioning? Like, it's not even enjoyment. Like, when I watch basketball at home, I'm more using the rewind button a lot, just to kind of see what they saw and try to put myself in that situation. And then, if they go to the monitor, I'm trying to think, all right, what could we be looking at? How efficient can we be? Like, trying to have all the information. Like, okay, they're looking at the out of bounds, but are they looking at the clock? Like, because a lot of times, sometimes you'll see guys, they'll go to the monitor and then they go back. Well, that just tells me they probably didn't have the conversation. Hey, when we get over there, let's make sure we're checking the ball status. Let's check, the clocks. And that's just be more efficient. So I try to put myself in that situation. So when I'm there, it's not to bang on guys. It's just more so to help me.
Mental reps.
It's just mental reps. Yeah. And but when I break down film, it's I do that after every game. But typically, I do it the next day, the night after a game. It's more so I'm looking at 3, 4, 5 calls that I know I just want to see. Because I think any good official, they know that there's 3, 4, 5 plays that you need to look at. Okay, maybe you kicked it, maybe you didn't, but you know what those plays are. They might be a call or a no call, and I try to make a mental note. Hey, at the 10-20 mark, I need to take a look at that. And then also just admitting if you're not your own harshest self-evaluator, you're not going to work. There's some guys that are younger guys. I hate to say I'm a vet now. I still feel young, even though I'm 42, been around a little bit, but I still feel young. But I got some guys that reach out to me on plays, and usually my thing is when they send me a play, I said, you already know the answer. They're just looking for validation. Like this, be your harshest self-critic. If you're sending a play, you probably know the answer, but you're looking for an answer that is probably not there. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I know you have replay now, but was there a time in your career where you knew you kicked a play, maybe afterwards, after you went back and watched on replay, and you're like, how long does it stay with you? And how do you get that out of your mind? Because it's probably hard from an official standpoint. Because I know you guys want to be perfect, and I'm watching the game, and you guys screw up, and we go nuts. But you guys are trying to be perfect, and I try to always remember that. But you can't be perfect. Coaches aren't perfect. Players aren't perfect. Why do we expect officials to be perfect?
Yeah, it's a lonely feeling when you miss one, especially in the big spot. And that was one thing, to circle back to Terry. If we make a mistake at 17 minutes left in the first half, no one really remembers. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not brought up because that team has 37 minutes to make up for that quote-unquote mistake. you have to try to be perfect in the last 4. Have I made mistakes in a big spot in the last 4? Yes. And it eats at you. Unfortunately for us, like, I was thinking about this as I was driving over. Like, one thing I do miss, from my playing days, like, I'm not part of a team. It's not like when we nail a call, we're not coming in the locker room and slapping them 5s.
Right.
It's expected out of us, and I miss that camaraderie, of being part of a team.
Yeah.
That's one I try to live through my younger brother's team a little bit, just because it's kind of I can, at least I'm not there every day, but at least I feel part of something. So for us, it's an empty feeling. I've had it happen, and you want to try to get back on the floor as fast as possible, but then you also have to learn from it. The moment you make the mistake, it becomes history, but what you do with it, that's going to be determined if that mistake is going to linger for 3, 4, 5 games, or is it something now, or can you learn from it and just move on? You can't just forget about it. Like, I worked with a guy, he made a tough call towards the end of the game, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, whatever it was. I touched base with the guy because I knew he was beating himself up. And, I said, how do you feel? And he's like, I can't believe I did that. And I said, hey, I get it. I've been there. I said, he had gotten advice from someone that, hey, you just need to forget about it. And I said, here, I would tell you, don't forget about it. Remember it. Don't let it bother you, but don't just forget about it, because you got to learn from it. What you do with that mistake, is going to be determined of how good of an official you can be, because we're all going to make mistakes. It happens. You just want to try to avoid those mistakes in crucial moments. Sometimes you get lucky. I had one. I made a huge mistake. The team ended up winning, so it didn't really become an issue. Sometimes you get, the basketball gods are on your side. But hopefully that answers your question. I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles a little bit, but that's where we're at. With that. So
yeah, I remember Terry talking about the last 2 minutes of the game and why it was important to use the monitor. He really valued that and making sure we get it right.
Yeah. And with the rules changes and stuff, one thing I would say, I don't know if you guys realize, obviously, out of bounds has to be challenged throughout the duration of the game. And before, I think my mentality has kind of changed where I may offer more information. So if my partner calls an out of bounds call, I'm like, ooh, that looks like it was off white, I may just come over and just offer that information. Because they could be out of challenges. This to kind of put that thought in his mind. And my thought process before was, unless I was 110%, was I coming over. Now maybe I'm 80, 90, but I just want to give him that information. Like, hey, I did have him white 10 hitting it. Just so he knows. Maybe he was like, well, blue 5 hit it afterwards. Okay, I just want to give you that thought process. Because now with the coaches challenge and us not being able to go to the monitor every time, it's a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, because we only can go on out of bounds when the coach challenges it. We cannot go every single time.
Okay.
So
what's the hardest call, or maybe there's a few, for an official in your mind?
Out of bounds, not even close.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is it's either off black or it's off white. There's no gray area. I think most officials, I ask that question when I'm at camps, most guys will say the block charge. My opinion on that is they say block charge because they're afraid to communicate with the coach. If you can communicate, I can live in the gray area. I'm not saying I'm the greatest, but I feel if you can't be comfortable as a referee in the gray area, you're not going to be very successful. So for me, the block charge, it comes down to communication. You got to be able to communicate with what you had. They may not like it, but you have to they need to buy at least what you're selling. They may not like what you're selling, but out of bounds, there's really no fluff about it. It's you're off. It happens so quick, those out of bounds. And basket interference goaltending, that's another one that's tough. Plays above the rim. They happen so quick. You got to train your eyes. You probably, at least for me, I think I'm much better in January, February, and March on basket interference goaltend than I am in November, just because my eyes are trained. Because I go into November not seeing that stuff for 4 or 5 months.
Well, maybe you need to get those virtual reality goggles and work on those plays.
You'll see some interesting things.
I'm sure of that.
Maybe coaches want to see that video, see how they react.
Exactly. That's interesting stuff. I go down to my grandson's, and he's like 15, 16, and they got these goggles, and I'm watching an actual true NBA game through these virtual goggles. I'm sitting right at the court. Here's the coach. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I don't know. I can't afford them, but his dad can, so I use them. But that's so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it a whole different viewing perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because, fans don't realize. I mean, most fans don't have courtside seats, And I remember a few years back, my parents and my son sat courtside a game I had at the Cleveland Cavaliers arena. It was in the MAC tournament. And I just remember my mom saying to me, she goes, I don't know how you do it because things happen so fast. Like, we're making – there's so many decisions that you got to make that I don't think the average fan just understands. Like, this – all right, could we call a hold almost every time down the floor? But I got to determine, hey, did that really affect that play? Can I talk to the guy out of it? Because not that we try to protect the best players, but your game can be better when the better players are in it. So if I can save that guy who's averaging 15, 20 points, a foul, like, hey, can I get to him in the first four? And at the media, just talk to him, like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Like, do you realize if it's going to affect the play, then I got to pick it up. And I try to do that. I usually try to grab an assistant to have that conversation with them because then he can reinforce that and help me. And then, but things happen so fast.
Preventive officiating, that's part of it.
Yeah. Do you remember your first big-time college basketball game that you officiated?
My first big-time one?
Or your first Division I when you started?
My first Division I game was at the University of Akron. Now the University of Akron coach that year was Keith Dambrot, who has since retired. He went from Akron to Duquesne, and Keith and we had a really good relationship. I played against him when I played in college. He challenged me in that game pretty hard, and I remember turning to him and I said, "Do you realize who I played for?" And he goes, "Oh, Dockage." He goes, "I can't say anything you haven't heard." I'm like, "Yeah, Keith, we're all good, man." So that I remember that, and I worked with Izzy Santiago, who got hired same year I did. Who Izzy still works in college ball, and then Jim Haney, who was a longtime official. And Jim Haney now was the supervisor for the America East, but now is the Division III national supervisor. So he is in charge of putting together the officials for the Division III national tournament.
Yeah. Now you played Division I basketball.
I did.
So you're kind of acclimated to it, but when you see the Tom Izzos and the Bill Selfs and guys like that when you officiate them, for me it would be a little bit of, I don't know, not intimidating or kind of in awe. How do you kind of push that aside when you go into an environment like that, John?
All those guys.
Or is it just
for me,
the profession?
Yeah, it is what it is. They're doing a job just like I'm doing a job. It doesn't matter if I'm working, Michigan State, Minnesota, or if I'm working Eastern Michigan. All those guys have put in a lot of work to get to where they're at. So you got to treat every coach just like you want them to treat you, because the way our business works is how I allow Coach A to act. Coach B, if they're not on the other sideline, they're probably watching it. And they're like, then if I do something to Coach B, they're like, wait a minute, you allowed Coach A to do this. Now you're gonna do it the next night. Like, why weren't you doing it in that environment? So you have to treat every coach with the same amount of respect, and they deserve that. Because ultimately, especially the guys that and the assistants, because the way I look at it, the assistants, those guys, they're really putting in a lot of hours. They're not making the money some of these head coaches are making, and a lot of those assistants will eventually become head coaches. So those guys remember that. If you treat them with respect, now they're not allowed to do as much as the head coach. But I had a situation in a game, and I'll say, "Hey guys, I know you're coaching. Can you just sit down for me? Just help me out." Like when the ball's on their side of the floor, because I have a boss I have to answer to, and they don't want the assistant standing up every time down the floor. But I try to say something positive, and then instruct them. Seems to work for me because guys are like, "I got you, Floyd. No, we're all good." So I'll try to say something like that. "Hey, I know you're coaching, I know you're fighting for your team, but just help me out." So just something like that.
Yeah.
How much post-game interaction would you get from maybe a referee who is kind of viewing the game, what I call a super evaluator?
We got
Somebody who
evaluators.
might-
Yes, we got
on game site. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have evaluators. The NCAA has regional observers, so you never know if they're there.
Right.
And they could nowadays, especially at the Division I level, pretty much every game's on TV. But even at the lower levels, they can go on Huddle and all that other stuff to watch you. So you never know when you're getting evaluated, and then you never know if they're on site. They used to come in our locker room, but they don't do that anymore. Now they stopped doing that around COVID.
Okay.
So they just don't come in. But you never know. I had a game 3-4 weeks ago. I ended up getting my eval, and it said he was on site. I had no idea. So with the NCAA regional observers, there's not too much interaction. I'd say we have more interaction with that direct supervisor of that conference.
Yeah.
But you also try to, like where I'm at right now in my career, like at the mid-major level, maybe I'm more of a vet in those conferences, and I think the supervisor tends to lean on like our opinions, but then you try to help, the younger guys. Conversely, if I work, a Big Ten game, I try to take in what those guys. If I have a tough play, hey, what do you think? Or a tough situation, it's more so like, coaches, like, hey, how can I deal with this? Or, whatever that is, and just try to absorb as much information from those guys, because and I'm not going to take everything. Maybe, you try to take what can work for you, because something that works for, Bill Eck may not work for me. I got to try to have my own personality on the floor. Jeff Anderson, he can do things that I can't do. His personality is different than mine. But if I can try to, absorb something from him that works for me, that's what I try to do.
John, thank you so much. I know you got to get on the road here, so we'll let you go.
I've got one more
Go
thing
ahead.
I got to
Yep,
run
go
by.
ahead. Yep,
Yeah,
go ahead.
This backtracks to his playing days.
Yeah.
I was talking to my brother today, and he said, well, I have a John Floyd story. He goes, I coached him in the Ohio-Indiana All-Star game.
I did.
He said, that was an intense game. Me and Dave Freilich from Van Wert were coaching the Ohio team over in Indiana, and he said, at the end of the game, there was some pushing and shoving going on, and John was right in the middle of it. So, what do you remember about that?
There was pushing and shoving. We were defending the Ohio name.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Hey, that's one thing for me. The competitive nature was there, and that probably came from growing up with an older brother who liked to beat up on me, and then a younger brother that I liked to beat up on him. And I just never, and talking about the youth sports and everything else. One thing that I hope my son here, hopefully he gets into this stuff. I just remember us going to play at a local park, and if you lost, you were done. And you may be waiting an hour to get back on. Now everything's so structured. I feel bad for the youth that they can't experience that. It was more organic.
Who did you not want to play against in the park in Toledo when you were growing up?
Dennis Springs, who's now the coach at Southview.
Okay.
The smaller, really, really quick guards tend to give me an issue. And Dennis was a hell of a player. Had a great career at Ferris State after he got done with Ed Scott. Yeah, he was a great player. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we could keep you longer, but I know you got to go, so we'll let you go, and we'll have the state champs from Napoleon back on next week.
Sounds good.
Do we know who's coming on?
To be decided.
To
But I
be
think
decided, okay.
We've got Dave Smith for sure.
Okay.
And then beyond that, we'll see.
We'll find out. Perfect. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
John, thank you so much.
No,
greatly
thanks for the
appreciate
opportunity.
it to
I really
talk about
appreciate it.
Terry and his life and his career, because I know it's he had a special life that his service and funeral and showing all the people
Absolutely.
that came back showed what kind of person he was, the respect. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
No, I appreciate the
it.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Have
you,
a good one.
Coach. We'll
Thanks,
see you
John.
next week.